Thank you for joining us. We've got a great group today and a lot of really cool stuff to share with you all today. So my name is Zach Semke and I'm with Passive House Accelerator. We're very excited that you are joining us here for our Passive House Prefab Summit that is sponsored by 475 High Performance Building Supply. We're looking forward to hearing actually from Johnny Rizvani now. If you are available, Johnny,
Yeah.
Fortunately, I've figured out how to show the slides.
Thanks for having me. 475 is happy to sponsor today. We've been looking forward to it. Working with prefab passive house builders has been an important part of our development as a company. You'll notice that many of the enclosures that you'll hear about today have some key materials in common. The prefab builders we work with end up relying pretty heavily on one of the varieties, the Solitex WRB membranes manufactured by Proclima. And there's a few reasons why. They're a go-to that's super durable. It can put up with the abuse. Dense pack ready for the varieties that are reinforced so that you don't need sheathing. You can blow in right from the exterior of the building, which is great for a lot of people. Extended exposure time, some of them up to 6 months, depending on the variety. Airtight vapor open, very unique in the field. The TEEE monolithic membrane that actively transports vapor outward while being completely non-porous. There's also varieties of Solitex that have the double wide rolls available, which are 3 meters or just under 10 feet, that allow you to do big spans all at once. And of course, it's part of the complete Proclima system that has the 10-year warranty. And then next slide. So for us, it's been a two-way street in terms of growth with these prefab teams. Many of you know about our free smart enclosure downloads available, and prefab construction, working through these details that are repeatable and modular and adaptable really helped us improve our own smart enclosure designs. So, and personally, I've had the pleasure of working with 4 out of the 6 companies here at the summit today to create videos on our YouTube channel and project spotlight blog posts on our site. And as a testament to the interest in prefab passive house, their videos and blog posts are consistently among the most popular and most watched on our channel. And when we get it all sorted out, Zach, I sent you some links and text to put into the chat to help you find all that stuff easily. And I'll leave it at that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Johnny. I want to give a quick call out to Mary James of Passive House Accelerator. You know her as editor of Passive House Buildings magazine, likely, and she has put together this program for us tonight. So thank you, Mary. And if you'd like to say a couple of words, we'd love to hear those.
Hey everyone, I just want to say a quick hi and thank you to everybody who's participating. And I just wanted to mention that in addition to these 6 panelists tonight, we also have other manufacturers in the audience who hopefully you can ask questions of later in the summit. And I also wanted to let you know that we're planning to do other prefab summits in the near future. And you can look forward to a prefab publication coming out in January, which I hope to function as a directory a little bit so people can see what all these companies are doing all in one place. So that's a lot to look forward to, and enjoy the summit.
Thank you, Mary. So now I'd like to introduce Sean Sanamore, who everybody on this line probably already knows. He's going to be our moderator today. And as we all know, Sean is very passionate about sustainable prefab passive houses. And I witnessed this firsthand when we were brainstorming with Mary about what questions to ask today. He's a product consultant with 475 High Performance Building Supply for British Columbia and Alberta. He graduated from the University of British Columbia with a degree in wood products processing. He's a certified passive house tradesperson. He's also obtained a building construction technology associate certificate at BCIT while working at Viceroy Homes and BOSA Construction. He was a general contractor under Footprint Sustainable Housing Corp. Before joining 475. And Sean has been involved with the Global Passive House Happy Hour that we present at the Accelerator since its inception, a key piece of making that such a fun event. And if he's not talking about passive houses, he's playing Lego with his daughters or working on his hubby-do list. Sean Sanamore, take it away.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm very excited to moderate today. As you can tell, I love Passive House and these 6 speakers. And if you haven't already noticed, we have a manel today. So, again, I'd love to get more women and diversity into the marketplace. But today we're going to talk about prefab, and more prefab. These 6 amazing speakers have done an amazing job of establishing themselves as leaders in the Passive House prefab market, which is currently a niche market. And this is what I want to talk about today, is to highlight their amazing efforts so that we can not only accelerate the Passive House movement, but prove to the construction industry that prefab is here and ready to assist. And if you don't believe me, again, head over to Europe when the pandemic is over and look at the prefab companies. Most are 30 plus years old, and most have been in construction for 100 plus years, and they've adapted prefab into their processes. So now you can see from my background that we're not here to play hangman, but here to talk about prefab elements or modules which contain at least 2 of the 5 Passive House principles, which is to look at continuous air barrier and thick insulation. So these elements contain structural elements, this lumber and the sheathing, the membranes and tapes that create the continuous air barrier, and then are usually stuffed with lots of insulation. So now these are amazing prefab companies that are attending today. So if you're out there in the audience, and again, that unfortunately we could only bring in 6 today, but if you're out there, please say hello. We do want to recognize everybody in the prefab industry, because again, the whole goal here is to promote and grow the prefab pie so that everyone's slices can grow. So thank you for being here. Let's introduce these amazing speakers. So I've told them they've got 90 seconds to be fast and quick and still have fun. So we're going to start on the East Coast and work our way west. So we're going to get started. Once I say their name, they will unmute. So we're going to head over to Maine, where we have Chris Corson, who's the owner and technical director of EcoCore. The clock is ticking, Chris. Go ahead.
Thank you for having me and inviting me to be on this panel this evening. Also, thank you to the rest of my colleagues that are on the panel as well. My name is Corson. I'm the owner and technical director of EcoCore High Performance Buildings. At EcoCore, we integrate sustainable materials, modern technologies, and factory panelization into the highest quality, high performance buildings on the market. Our mission is to build the most energy efficient, most resilient, healthiest homes available with the lowest embodied energy. The materials we choose to build with and the products we choose to build with, going back to what Johnny was talking about earlier, is extremely important to us. The people that we employ and the people that we work with, it's important for us to use clean, healthy, safe materials so that our clients can live in clean, healthy homes and our employees can work in an environment that is also clean and healthy. We emphasize building science as a baseline for envelope design and Passive House as a baseline for architectural design. We were the first certified Passive House component manufacturer outside of Europe, and we were the first certified component manufacturer in North America. We work every day at the intersection of proven building science, modern factory panelization, and master craftsmanship while staying committed to sustainability. By combining locally available materials with the lowest embodied energy and 0 VOCs, we fabricate the industry's cleanest assemblies for buildings that consume the least amount of energy. Over the last several years, we've completed over 100 Passive House projects. These projects range from single-family residential to multi-family and institutional projects. Recently, we just finished the panelizing the College of Atlantic's new 60,000 square foot research facility in Bar Harbor, Maine. And we're currently working in conjunction with a local general contractor in Maine to build Mount Katahdin's new land and water monument. So we are in a lot of different industries and are operating through the entire market of construction.
All right, Chris, thank you for joining us. And now we're going to head over to New Hampshire, where we got Doug Raymeyer, who's the project development manager at Bensonwood.
Thank you, everybody. I want to thank Zach, Mary, Michael for organizing the Passive House panel discussion. It's a pleasure to be with you all. Just to tell you a little bit about our company, Bensonwood has been building off-site fabricated structures for over 47 years. We are a full-service design build firm managing various divisions from our tectonics assemblies, which are our panelized assemblies, to unity homes and our open homes divisions. And the goal is to focus on sustainable woodworking, mass timber, and panelized building systems. We design and build residential, multifamily, institutional, and resort projects managed by an in-house team of licensed professionals. And our work is probably about 50% residential and 50% the remainder that I illustrated. We really got our start back in the early 70s with the timber frame and enclosed our systems with traditional SIP systems. And through the evolution of sustainable building practices and really focusing on high performance construction and air sealing really led us to developing the systems that we're incorporating now. And the two principles of air sealing and super insulation are pretty much across the board with all of our assemblies. We build our panelized systems in a 100,000 square foot facility, and in our 30,000 square foot facility focuses on the mass timber and millwork components. Yeah, we work throughout the entire country, but we really focus on geographies where we can really tie into projects, collaborators, architects, engineers, and general contractors who are really trying to integrate high performance construction into their projects, specifically passive house standards of air sealing. Look forward to learning more from our collaborators today and to respond to guests' questions. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Doug. Now we're going to head north into Canada. We're going to cross the border, but we don't have to do a 14-day quarantine. But we're lucky to have Abby Sherry who's in Minton, Ontario, who's the president of Quantum Passive House. Abby?
Perfect. Thank you, everyone. And it's unfortunate that Angie Horner-Sherry, the owner of Quantum as well, wasn't able to join the panel as she wanted to tonight. Hello, everyone, and thank you to everyone. My name is Abby Sherry, and I'm the president and general manager of Quantum Passive House. At Quantum, we specialize in prefabricated passive house performing structures. We offer architectural design, dedicated engineering, and prefabrication and construction services. Quantum offers 4 panel assemblies that are certified by the International Passive House Institute for cold and cool temperature climates. They can be used in single family residential, multi-unit residential, institutional, and commercial developments. Quantum panels are a solution to many project requirements and challenges. We offer a load-bearing balloon-framed wall up to 28 foot in height using our Quantum Strong Stud system. We have a paneled exterior clad wrap that is non-load bearing, as well as we have a post and beam and timber framed insert panel that are load and non-load bearing. Our construction services also include engineered raft slab and foundation systems, components such as windows and doors, ventilations, and mechanical systems, and our project management of on-site preparation and finishes. We also offer, we're excited to always share that we offer trades training and a mobile lab in collaboration with Peel Passive House and Mitsu Passive House. We are recently working on multi-unit projects throughout Ontario, and we also have interest and collaboration with prospects outside of Canada. So again, we're excited to share what we do, and thank you to everyone on the panel.
Great, thanks, Abby. And now we're going to go west. We're going to head to Colorado, where we'll find Bill Mcdonald, founder and CEO of Phoenix House.
Hey all, good evening. Thanks again for the invite to this Passive House Accelerator 475. Thanks for putting this together. Again, I'm Bill with Phoenix House, and we specialize in healthy housing. When working with Phoenix House, we focus on a product-based approach versus a project focus. For us, that product focus is defined as standard but customizable offsite building system design, as well as house designs that have been developed in-house. We're also certified with PHI as a component as well. For us, we're taking that standardized design and we're producing it, of course, in our offsite controlled facility. And in that approach to construction, we're consolidating the many options, things like tapes, membranes, right? Fresh air systems, triple pane windows and doors, as well as flexible multifamily space use design. And that's aligned into a vertically integrated system. So from end to end, we are allowing efficiencies by controlling that and offering value to the end user. We find that very important. That's our DNA, that's our why. Geographically, we're focusing our product within the Rocky Mountains. We are targeting a 6-state area. And for example, we've recently installed projects in places like Jackson, Wyoming, Crescent View, etc. We're developing a service provider network for our system, for our offsite design, and that's going pretty well. Our facility is a formal production space. We have planned workstations based on quality, and we're able to integrate those standard configurations into our space planning, into our environment. We can rapidly customize, and we're producing at pretty impressive rates since moving to Colorado back in 2017. Yes, so that's us in a nutshell. Thanks again for the opportunity to speak tonight.
Great, thanks, Bill. And so now we're going to head back into Canada, heading up into the Rocky Mountains, where we'll find Collective Carpentry, and we have Jan Prečka, who is the one of the co-founders. Go ahead, Jan.
Thanks, Sean. Hi, everyone. Real pleasure to be here with you all. I'm really looking forward to the questions at the end. And so nice to see some familiar faces and names. Collective Carpentry, like our peers, we are a high-performance builder specializing in panelized construction. And we primarily, our homes are destined to become certified passive houses, not necessarily always certified, but high-performance buildings tending towards passive house certification or similar. We have a shop in Southeast British Columbia in Invermere, where we have an amazing crew who helps us fulfill all of our construction dreams. Really, we couldn't do it without them. They're a huge part of what we do. We typically are supplying, like I said, panels. We're doing insulated floor panels, insulated wall panels, insulated roof panels, and often just whatever structure is integral to a streamlined installation. So that can include whatever posts and beams are required for a structurally complete building. So, pardon me, we don't typically include things like interior walls that are non-load bearing, and we do not include siding and exterior finishes, windows and doors, although we do play a hand in the coordination of windows and doors, and sometimes in the selection and procurement, but most often it's not something we do in the shop, and it's most often something that a contractor will do on site, often with a little bit of guidance from us. Most of our work has been custom residential, and we have built a few institutional buildings. We built a church and a health center and a fire hall as well. But yeah, most of the work has been custom, and custom work has really helped define who we are, and define the skills and experience of our crew. as everybody knows, custom jobs just provide such a huge plethora of challenges, and overcoming those challenges is a really, really important part of what we do. So we are, on the other hand, also we have a relationship with B Public Prefab, who is a supplier of pre-designed panels, and that's a really nice complement to our custom work, as it's a system that has all the advantages of high quality materials and experienced labor, but it allows us to maximize the design time and use a standard product that really minimizes labor in planning and planning time. So that's a really exciting opportunity for us as well. So yeah, that's basically us at Collective Carpentry, and I'm really excited to be here and looking forward to chatting more.
All right, last but not least, we're going to head to the coast. We're going to head just north of Whistler to Pemberton, where Kyle with BC Passive House is there. Kyle Moon.
Hi guys, and yeah, first of all, Sean and the group, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak today. So far, great to see a lot of slides and a lot of similar homes to what we're building. So very cool. So BC Passive House, we started as a company in 2013. Primarily, we're focusing on structural insulated panels with the goal of achieving either passive house or just general low energy targets. We're building a wood first panel, typically out of dimension lumber or engineered lumber, and focusing on using materials basically all out of wood, so wood fiber based insulation as well. The panel typically will be designed to meet your own energy targets, whether that's passive house or in our region step code. I guess a couple things to highlight: plant expansion that we've just undertaken. We're adding another 22,000 square feet to our shop, and we have some cool new equipment, including Sucup framing tables, insulation blowing machine, and a big Hundigger CNC machine, and are looking to increase our production by about 4-fold over the next 5 years. And then this slide here is just a few set of examples of some projects we did recently. The big one with the helicopter there is a home we set up on the top of a mountain near us here in Whistler. This is 32 beds that will be part of a ski-in hut system known as a Spearhead Traverse. And so very cool. That's fully operational and available to book now. And bottom right corner, I guess primarily we've been focusing on custom residential to date. In order to increase our production over the next few years, we'll be targeting commercial, and that goes from, I guess, mass timber wall systems and getting into high-rise construction. So we're looking forward to the new capacity of our plant, and then also meeting some of the new challenges of building out of wood that are coming quickly and will allow for passive house construction in high rise as well. So yeah, that's us.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. Hopefully everyone's now off to check their websites, but hold on, don't go anywhere. We got some great questions for the panelists or manalists. So let's dive into it. First off, question number 1. What makes a prefab approach advantageous compared to on-site construction on a given site? And so why don't we go to Doug and Kyle for this one. So Doug, I'll let you start off the answer to that one.
So the question is advantageous over site building?
Yeah, start off with the easy one.
Well, I think the biggest advantages are, as I think a lot of the panelists share, that there's a little bit more predictability in terms of what we're producing in the factory and how we can work on a more predictable site install time. Because all of our companies are managing, a handful of projects, per month, per week, and we're trying to also support a lot of general contractors out there, it's important that we're trying to hold to certain timelines and schedules. As important as it is to make sure that the clients are happy, we have to ensure that the subtrades and the general contractors that we're teaming up with that are prepping the site and finishing our work, we're able to meet their schedules. And especially with the challenges that we're finding with real quality talent out there, it's important to support those subtrades so that they can hold those subtrades into their schedule. So offsite fabrication for us and for our clients is something that's important to control costs and predictability and execution in what we're building.
All right, thanks, Doug. Kyle, what do you got to say about it?
Yeah, no, I think, Doug, those are some good points. Maybe a few that I'll add is in terms of predictability, at least in our process, we're modeling our houses in advance in 3D using, our software is called CADWorks, but that allows for a lot of quality control and also engineering sign off before the house is built. In that sense, we know that we're building the house once and it's going to be right the first time. There's no surprises during setup or during the construction phase. And speed is the next one. So the home can be drawn and built while the foundation is going in. And in our case, we're looking at typically 3 days for a residential house, and then up to 3 weeks for a MER building or a construction build or a commercial building to set up. So we can jump through that framing stage and really, I guess, assist with the project schedule. And then finally is cost. I think there's a lot of discussion about is whether prefab is cheaper. What we're looking forward to with our new equipment is drastically reducing our labor costs and hopefully bringing our panel costs down to the point where we're noticeably more or noticeably cheaper than on-site framing. And I think that's really the key for everyone in the prefab industry is to be able to sell that point, because it really is about dollars, especially when it comes to commercial and the development level. So, yeah.
Excellent. Thanks, guys. And everyone, as you saw in the intros, I mean, there are a lot of similarities between these companies, but there's lots of differences. And I would just want to say that if you haven't started planning to incorporate prefab into your 2021 plans, you got about 8 weeks before we turn the calendars. But reach out to one of these, or again, all of the different prefabbers we have in today's event and connect with them. So question number 2, what are the limitations that make a given site suitable or unsuitable for prefab? And this time let's go to Abby and Yan. So Abby.
Okay. That's a tough one to answer because, you know, everyone has their system designed to work to how they see the process happening. I know at Quantum, it's been really interesting for us because a lot of our sites are extremely challenging. Certain project, the road coming in is called Soundhorn for a particular reason. Everything's on a 60-degree angle with bends everywhere. So we've been really successful at making a system that would be flexible to the site's needs. But if someone is looking for prefab and they're looking for land and they want to make sure that it works well with Passive House, I would really strongly suggest connect with one of these wonderful companies and get early stage consult on your project so that we can identify with you and for you some of the challenges that you're facing. I know with some of our systems, we've designed panels that would be unique to be tailored or customized for specific needs. And I know a couple of you have already mentioned that. So really just, knowing that you can get a system that can adapt to certain sites is really important.
Yan, go ahead.
Hey, yeah, thanks. I think that you can do just about anything. It's just how much effort it's going to become, and I think everybody could agree that a nice flat site, in good weather is going to be a huge impact on the success of a project from everyone's perspective. The difference with us, I think, is that we bring a lot of mass to a site in a short amount of time, and then we're under a huge amount of pressure to put it up properly. So the impact of a site that's not ready can be really large, and just like the impact of weather can be really large. But At the same time, I think, you know, a big part of it is just having a plan. You know, you identify a site just like every contractor will identify a site and identify its challenges, and whether that's a tight driveway or it's a site in the middle of nowhere or whatever it might be, you know, it's just a matter of approaching it from that perspective and identifying the challenges and then overcoming them. So there are certain things that we do request, though. You know, we do request that a site is clean and tidy, and we prefer a foundation that's backfilled so that you can, you know, so that you can get scaffold close, you can get a crane close, you can get a truck close. You know, those are fairly obvious things in my opinion. But then there's always a ton of other things that are just obstacles that need to be overcome. We've had some sites where we have to offload onto smaller trucks and then bring them up little windy roads where if it snows on this little road, it's over until the spring. You know, that can put a lot of pressure on a project. And but at the same time, it's a ton of fun, and it's a really great thing to have, you know, to have obstacles and to overcome them. So I don't know, we don't tend to shy away from too many things, but we do love a flat, clean site with great access and turnaround for 80 foot of truck. But in reality, not too many sites are like that. So it's all a matter of just working with the local contractors. We put a huge amount of faith in our shippers, in our truckers and the shipping companies. And you know, they're just part of the team that helps execute our part of the project.
Excellent. Thanks, Abby. And again, you know, I didn't bring the easy questions for everyone. We brought hard questions because people wanted to know about it. And it's great to see that we've maxed out our Zoom capacity. So if anyone is texting you, wondering how do you get into this private elite forum today, we will be putting it on our YouTube and other channels. So don't you worry that we will share all this answers. And that's what's fun about, you know, Passive House, again, is this group of people that just love sharing our successes and failures. And so we can scale things. So it's fantastic. Just to say, to read her again, I love that. What is your plan? We don't talk about that enough. We talk about air barriers, that continuous approach is what is your plan in the planning process. It does work for prefab, and there's no I in team. It does take a full team to make this whole project come together, and proper communication, not the over the wall approach, but again, the integrated design process works very effectively with prefab. Okay, next question. What are the factors that determine whether a prefab approach will be cost effective on a given site? I already see the cost question being in the chat, so let's dive into it. This time we'll get Chris and Bill to chime in. So Chris, why don't we go to you?
Yeah, thank you, Sean. I mean, it's a loaded question, right? So every site is difficult, and every site has its logistical challenges, right? And I think that, you know, we've heard people talk about that a little bit. I think that the cost efficacy of Passive House and the quality control, the QA/QC component of factory panelization allows a planned approach and a predetermined approach to any particular building site. What's so funny?
I'm laughing because one, I'm reading the chat, and I also see there's some private things that I'm not allowed to say, but I agree with you completely. I'm just managing a lot of things. Just keep going.
I want to see the private things. That's where the meat and potatoes is in this conversation. So, you know, how does that relative to cost effectiveness? I think that the cost effective thing is pretty simple. You know, you can send 4 guys or 5 guys out to a site to stick build a Passive House, and it's going to take them 6 months to frame up an envelope, where we're doing it in 3 or 4 weeks in the factory, right? So the time to completion is shortened. You know, somebody else mentioned the foundation going in corollary to production. So all these things help expedite the process. And I don't think you can look at one particular component like the site relative to cost effectiveness. I think you have to look at the overall project, and it's very similar to Passive House, right? Passive House, you're putting capital investment into the walls, the roof, the windows, and the foundation, right, which are more expensive than a traditional home. Obviously, an R60 wall is more expensive than an R23 wall, right? But you're minimizing mechanical systems, you're minimizing complex hydronic heat delivery systems, so on and so forth. So I think we really have to look at the big picture relative to the cost efficacy of all of those things.
No, great comments. And again, I didn't mean to be laughing at you. I was laughing with you. That being said, if anyone's asking me questions in the private, please dump it into the main. Zach is gathering them because the chat is firing pretty fast. So I would love to get back to you, everyone, and gather them, but I got too many controls I'm playing with today. And I do appreciate that we have probably one of the youngest Passive House tradespeople in the works with Chris Hill's baby on board. So we got to start them young. So it's great. Get those skilled tradespeople into it. Now, sorry, Chris.
John, you can laugh at me anytime, by the way. Like if I was at my office, people would be like photo bombing in the backgrounds.
Again,
it's all good.
Just laughing with you, my friend. I want to Bill to chime in on this fun question.
Yeah, thanks. What I would think to this question would be productivity of labor. It's what we're talking about here as offsite producers. We are normally 3 times more productive in the offsite facility. We have better controls, we have better plan. So we always have to take a look at, as far as the cost effectiveness of a project, to the local labor force, wherever that project is going or intended to ship to. That's one big thing and factor to take a look at, is the efficiency of the labor force, 3 times more efficient than the offsite shop. In addition to that, it's how well the teams plan from end to end, as mentioned in the beginning of the intro, from design all the way through to certificate of occupancy, identifying the players on the team so as to deliver everything seamlessly. For us, that's boots on the ground and companies that are really seeing this vision and growing with that offsite and leveraging that for their projects in their markets. Yeah.
Oh, you're muted, Sean.
There you go. Fail right there. We knew it was going to happen. You know, Zach had a technical glitch. I had mine. Let's just keep it rolling. Question number 4. Are these factors different for a single family project or a multifamily or commercial project? Let's go back to Doug and Kyle. So Doug.
They do. I mean, the mobilization cost for shipping and installing an 1,800 square foot building, and the cost for mobilizing a 27,000 square foot project, it's all based on the project scale. So site access is clearly important. Good site planning is important. Mobilization plan is important, because when we're providing a fixed price contract, we're including our self-performing budgets, our costs for crane, telehandler, travel room, and board. So we have to hold to that tight schedule. So on a 27,000 square foot multifamily building, we might be budgeted for 21 days on site. So, you know, we really have to kind of dig into the early schematic planning to determine the cost projections for how site could affect that. So going back to what Bill was saying, the more we can develop early in schematic and DD, design development, we'll be able to reprice through the various phases of the project. And as we're pricing that, we're starting to incorporate more of the project complexity and kind of vetting those details. So from the very beginning to, let's say, 18 months, we're ready to show up to install a 27,000 square foot multifamily, we'll have a lot more assurance in terms of what we're going to be building in the factory, what we're designing in CAD work. We're going to have more predictability on site. So project scale definitely plays a part in the efficiency on site. But I think the distance from where the fabricator is shipping also plays a part in whether we're a good fit for the project. So that's why I think when we're evaluating a project, if we find that based on the distance, because shipping costs are not cheap, and based on the project complexity and timeline from initial development to executing on site, we might also make the recommendation to explore looking at one of our fellow fabricators, you know, that are closer to that location. So we have to kind of take all that into consideration.
Yeah, no, really good points. Kyle, I know you guys do a lot of multifamilies right now. What do you say about this one?
Yeah, I think there was a comment earlier just about every site is different, and I think that's even more so when it comes to commercial projects. Something like a downtown city lot, some of the sites are not even really going to be able to do a setup on. They might be too tight. They might like zero lot lines, might have power lines in the way. But I think on those city jobs where you can actually pull it off, there's massive advantages to prefab, just because there's so much money at stake in terms of getting the building completed and savings if you can speed up the construction schedule. And then as far as more remote sites, we've done a number of First Nations jobs in BC, northern BC, going up towards Yukon, and what we're finding is there's a really I guess tight construction window there. So if we can bring prefab to the project and get the building closed up before the winter comes in, then we can kind of skip through a construction season where the site might get shut down during, you know, -20, -30 kind of thing. So I think speed is critical there. And yeah, I think that's about it. I think my other comments here were just about air barrier assurance, but I think we'll get into that later. And certainly we can bring that, and that could be a big penalty to a builder if I see this coming up in passive house stuff where there is actually a penalty if you're not reaching the 0.6 air changes per hour. But prefab can definitely bring that level of assurance to a site contractor.
No, you're right. I'm working on a project where if they don't hit just even one on the air barrier, they have a $250,000 fine. So it's these penalties are coming, and as well as bonuses. So it does go both ways. And I think all of you have experienced tight timeframes, but I do know that Collective Carpentry literally were minutes away on their latest project, where within 6 hours they had a foot of snow on their project. And I think you guys all can talk about those benefits of where you just sneak through the weather and be able to deliver a project on time before Mother Nature takes over. So, all right, the next question. Thanks everyone. And so how does a prefab approach impact the design process? So what's the ideal process in communicating design intentions to prefab companies? And so this one will go back to Chris and Yan. So Chris, let's talk about some of the design issues. Chris did a Sean. Zach, you want to unmute him?
Got it. My bad.
Hey, it happens.
Technical
smiley
file number 3. So I think it really depends on whether the designs are in-house or if they're external, right? If they're in-house and they're pre-designed, there's absolutely no conflicts. You know exactly what's going on. The house is already panelized digitally, yada, yada, yada. Where the complexities arise is when an outside architect brings a project to us, and then we have to sort of marry our panelization process with their architectural ethos. So to me, that's one of the founding tenets of panelization versus modularization, because it's so adaptable to any particular design ethos. That being said, we like to approach things as, like you had mentioned earlier, integrated design process. And so the earlier that the architect gets involved with us for the particular project, the less work and the less heavy lifting and the less overlap of scope of work between the architect and us and the engineer happens. And we've done it all ways, and we've worked with architects that have come to us after they've worked with other builders, and we've had to sort of reinvent the entire wheel to facilitate their project. But I think the most streamlined situation is as close to an integrated design process as possible from the beginning.
Great. Yeah, you want to chime in?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I don't have too much more to say that Chris didn't say. I mean, it really comes down to being a part of the conversation as early as possible. I think definitely with companies that are offering pre-designed plans, there's there's a huge benefit to that because they've gone through the plans, they've optimized the plans, and you know, the customer is going to see the benefit. On the custom side, which is our experience, mostly our experience, there are definitely plans that come to us late that throw up a lot of red flags, you know, and we don't shy away too much, but at the same time, we really do encourage people to get in touch with us early, and we do share our plans, we do share our details, pardon me, quite freely. And in a lot of cases, we'll see a job that comes to us with a certain wall system and certain, you know, certain framing like build-ups, and we'll put a fair bit of effort into helping the designer kind of replan that part of it. And usually it's a worthwhile, you know, it's a worthwhile process. But definitely there are some plans that just don't work for our system. And there can be, you know, often it's a limitation to shipping. You know, there are different provinces and different states with different shipping considerations. There are oversized load, width, height, and length restrictions that change state by state. So there are a ton of variables that come into play when you essentially take a facade of a building and then try to chop it up in your, you know, in your brain and on the computer and try to figure out how you're going to retain architecture, structure, and how you're going to get it out the door onto a truck and down the road. So there are a lot of factors, and I would say that more planning is always good. More collaborative planning is really good, and getting us involved early, I believe, helps the project come along.
Yeah, and just good points, everyone. I think another phrase that I heard this week on Roger from Full Stack Modular talked about digital twins, where again, we're you know, the work that you guys are doing with the CAD work and other software to create full models down to millimeters, and now we're seeing it being built to millimeters, and now even having sensors put on your wall, so when you're doing fuller scales, you actually know how close your actual build is compared to your digital model. And it's pretty cool how we're finally incorporating more technology into our build. So excellent. Okay, moving along. Question number 6. How does the construction financing process affect your ability to scale your prefab business? This time we are going to go to Doug and Bill. So Doug, we'll let you dive into the finance portion.
Well, the financing portion is usually managed by the owner of the project. We try our best to work on providing a fixed price contract when we go to build. And so depending upon the size and scale of the project, usually one of the first questions is, what is the financing plan? So when we're working on a commercial project or institutional project, that's kind of factored into when you're looking at the timeline of that project schedule, which is really critical, because if you don't have your financing in place for, let's say, a multifamily project, and they want to execute on an AIA build contract, they can't fit into a production slot. So we can't necessarily move forward and invest a lot of the owner's time and resources to developing that. So we don't necessarily provide financing from our company, but it is something that, for example, from a homeowner's perspective, they're really interested in trying to lock into a low interest rate. So there are some options for the residential homeowner to self-fund some of the parts of the project that we don't necessarily touch, but we can have an effect on planning, like site preparation, getting the site cleared, getting utilities in place. So that's an area where the owner can control those costs. When we start to move into structuring the contract for delivery, we make it easy for the client. We can phase that if we're providing our own Benson Wood contract, or if we're working through an AIA. That's another way to control costs. But the most important thing is that through the integrated design process, we are developing predictable budgets. So when we do go to build contract, again, we want to respect that contract. So the goal is that unless there are any changes, unforeseen things that happen on site, we're looking to minimize or eliminate change orders, which is a big deal for everyone trying to build.
Great. Bill, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, to that end, it's really about establishing a schedule of payments. There is confidence with the pre-planned structure and design is that we can have confidence in the total cost of construction, right? Because we are aware of essentially the bill of materials with the smart 3D software that it seems that we're all running. So there's confidence in identifying every stick of lumber, every piece of membrane, a window and door package that's identified to the design process. So how we can convert that confidence into a schedule of payments. And we've so far have had success with every funding institution so long as they're aware of these payments. There's been a time or two where a funding institution has had a question, maybe it's one's required an inspection of the panels to make sure that it actually exists in reality and we're not, we're verifying that it's been built. But along those lines, I think as long as the schedule is established and like you were saying, there's a fixed schedule or fixed price, there's confidence there and it works pretty smoothly.
Excellent. And Doug, I like that phrase, predictable budget. Is that even a reality in construction? No, I know it is with the prefab, so that's a great point. Doing well on time here, so we're going to dive into. I see a lot of people talking about retrofits in the chat, and so I mean, as Monty Paulson in the Carbon Leadership Forum and others have talked about, we need to retrofit 6 billion buildings, and a prefab system will definitely help. So, has your company considered creating panels designed for the retrofit market? What would be needed to get your company to jump into this type of production? And let's go with Abby and Yan. Abby?
Thanks. Great question. Yes, we've identified, especially in our area, as land becomes scarce. New builds, our process is proven and it works. We understand that from all of our company's perspectives. But as we're starting to identify how to step into that retrofit or that hybrid space where people want to build additions, we know that even in that space, improving the existing space and the benefits of building the addition or new with Passive House, how that can actually bring back into the value of that existing space. So we've tackled that challenge with the solution of being, creating a setup within our team's experience, knowledge, training, and our setup to be diverse. That's when I mentioned in the interview, offering a cladding panel at Quantum. Part of the question is, have we set up for this? And yes, we have. We set up a non-load bearing cladding panel that can fasten to a multi mid or high rise building or low rise. And we've also set up panels that can be built in the same space off the same tables to accommodate specific retrofit needs. So as it's been mentioned so often, really project specific is the challenges that we need to face and address. And something that I've really been appreciating with all the companies here, and as I'm even in prefab learning more of the other companies, I think everyone has responsibly really been looking at bringing a system that works well. So if I were to just point out 3 critical lookouts when you're wanting to retrofit something, definitely have the team, the design team that understands a system that can work for you. It's really important to have construction teams that understand not only assemblies and construction methods, but the materials you're using. They're sophisticated. They work really well when installed right. And again, something that I'm proud of with Quantum, we've taken that measure to offer trades training to the IPHI standard, and we've had a huge success of that. With companies, engineers coming from all over Canada, the States. And when you could pull those 3 components together, you could really come up with a predictable outcome for the success of your project. And retrofit, you do not want to go into it light. Make sure that you have a team that is dedicated to understanding your goals and understands that it's going to have challenges, but they can be overcome.
Great, Jan. Will you take over?
There we go. Yeah, thanks. We have given a fair bit of consideration to this market. We've been part of some quite extensive discussions regarding how to approach some of the revitalization and retrofitting of First Nations housing in southern BC. And you know, we think the wall system that we build is typical. We build a few different wall types, of course, but the typical one would be a 2-layered system that has structure on the inside and insulation on the outside. So that buildup, you know, the outer part of that buildup does lend itself to being clad, like Abby was saying, you know, used as a cladding panel that can surround a building that is deemed to be structurally sound. So we have thought quite a bit about it. I also feel like there are quite a few limitations to, you know, to how to execute it really well. You know, in almost all cases, one side of a building is very easy to get to, and 3 sides of a building are not so easy to get to. So I'm not exactly sure that it's going to be a really viable solution where we are. I do believe there are places and there are certain smaller, you know, demographics, I guess, where it's going to work really well. But I just haven't really thought it through enough to feel like we're ready to take that step. But we've thought through the construction detailing part of it, but not necessarily how to actually deliver it in a reliable way.
Great, thanks, Jan. Doug, you had something to add?
Yeah, I think points that Abby made too. We get a lot of requests for deep energy retrofit residential projects. And one of the challenges, the barriers to enter into that market is sort of the ownership of the team of who's going to prep the renovation. How does the return on that investment really pay out? Because we actually advocate better practices of deep energy retrofit within the existing structure. You know, what kind of materials like that 475 can provide, and simple measures can you add into a residential project where it doesn't become costly and expensive. Because once you start to go down that path of tearing it apart, you know, now you're looking at, you know, do you need to update your MEP? You know, what's sort of the ripple effect of that? So I think for us, also changing the idea of moving away from single family residential into more of the multifamily co-housing model, there's a greater return on the investment because there's a social impact and also a carbon sequestration impact. So if we can produce larger volume of either load-bearing and non-load-bearing clad systems like Abby's talking about, and somehow figure out a way to interface that with the engineered connections, the fire rating, even improving on now creating the sweet spot for the window install now being in the old wall assembly, then I think we're making some headway. So we've made some inroad in talking with some organizations that want to look into this in areas that panelized construction isn't a limiting factor, because we also have to keep in mind with the modular permitting requirements. Some states are very rigorous in terms of what they do require. So I think it really comes down to understanding the performance goals of the project, what's the return on the investment for the stakeholder, the owner, and how can we see a real good return on that investment. And you know, the biggest thing is like possibly just changing the mindset of the type of project and shifting away from that single family and moving into that larger multifamily model.
Great insight, everyone, and thanks, Doug, for adding there. I saw the Pembina Institute is on, and they're doing a great job right now with the Reframed project and seminars that they're offering out, which is fantastic. And you know, we kind of look at Energy Sprong as the ideal way, and it's great because we in construction we don't use sophisticated tools typically, but the fact we get to use more lasers in scanning devices in retrofits is going to be exciting. And you know, great that you guys are on board to see there, because again, there's lots of potential. It's a question of, one, how do you deal with the sweater, and how do you deal with, I know they talk about an Energy Sprong, there's a gushy part that helps with the connecting the air barrier. But again, as we look at buildings new or old, and look at the 5 Passive principles and figure out how we do it, put in a proper plan, put in a model, and then figure out how do we either modify the existing building, if is it going to be a staged event, or can we do it all up front? And in some cases, the new build, we're able to just, you know, make it, put all those things together. Great stuff. Okay. Question number 8. What is the next step in market transformation to larger utilization of prefab in construction high performance buildings in North America? So this time we're gonna go to Chris and then Kyle, and so we'll talk about that.
I'd rather have a softball.
Hey, you know, if you didn't have those muscles, I wouldn't give you the tough stuff, but I know you can handle it. So deliver us a good answer.
So this is a really interesting and a very difficult question to answer, honestly. I mean, in 2009, I started a design build firm to design and build nothing but passive houses, long before, you know, we were involved in prefabrication, and I thought that was nuts at the time, and my wife thought it was nuts, but she had enough faith in my work ethic to allow me to do it. So that being said, like, this is where we are today as a result of that. I don't know what is the next step in market transformation. I think a lot of it comes down to education, and I have seen the entire market shifting, not slowly, actually rather quickly, towards higher and higher performance metrics. And I think a lot of it comes down to awareness on the architects side of things, on the people that are designing these buildings, and also on the institutions that are training architects. So, you know, traditionally, architects in the United States were artsy sort of people that wanted to take those talents and transition them into drawing pretty buildings, right? Whereas in Europe, you know, it was a much more technical background that was steeped in some of the engineering side of things, and less on the pretty pictures side of things. And I think we can look at post-World War II architecture in both continents and see that possibly. So how do we transform the market in terms of utilizing prefab construction? I think a lot of it just comes down to education and people understanding the long and short-term benefits of prefabrication relative to site building. And there's a lot of countries out there where if you said to a developer, we're going to take $100,000 worth of materials, we're going to dump it in a muddy field where it gets rained and snowed on for a year while random people come and put it together, they'd be like, you're freaking nuts, man. No, we're not doing that with our money, right? And so when we begin to realize the obvious benefits, the most obvious benefits, take Passive House out of it, I think the market will begin to adapt. I hope.
Well, you don't need to hope. I see it happening, so it's good. Kyle, did you want to chime in?
Sure, yeah. I think maybe I'll just talk about the development of Passive House in our area, and I think it's kind of a regional thing, because Vancouver and BC was one of the first areas to really adopt Passive House, but really it wasn't really taken to the next level until recently, when we saw this step code come into place, which is the BC building code, and every building now is mandated to meet certain energy targets. And I think by 2032 that every house and structure will have to meet the equivalent of Passive House. And we're seeing that work on a grand scale. Like it's, and I think that there's always going to be the residential home builders that will be interested in low energy building and prefab to a small degree, but you're not going to really, it's not really going to happen until the code forces everyone to change. And what I think prefab offers there is just the guarantees, both in terms of, I talked about air barrier assurance before, but also if we can control costs and proves to big companies that the cost targets that they need can be met, then we'll really see prefab take over. So yeah, so I think the model exists. I think we've really seen it happen here, and I think prefab and passive house is really becoming the norm in our area, which is great.
I agree. It's here to stay. And I know I just saw Bronwyn chime in, so I have to say again, it's about making boxes beautiful. Moving along, again, the chat has lots of questions and we need to get to it. So I want to ask one final question. We'll go around the horn. We'll travel across North America again. We'll start on the West with, we'll come back to you, Kyle. Again, 90 seconds just to kind of wrap up our question period so we can dive into the audience because again, they've been jumping at the bit. What changes, next steps are your company's future? What are you doing to, again, tell us your 2-year, 5-year plan so we all can copy you. No, seriously, just what are you guys doing in the next few years? So we'll start with Kyle.
I would say up until now, we've built about 60 or 70% residential and about 30% commercial in terms of volume. And we're looking to flip that around really because we have pretty aggressive targets for production coming up here. So multi-unit residential, we're looking forward to sort of bringing that quality and cost control aspect to that market. And then the next one, I guess the sort of new frontier for passive house and prefab is high-rise wood construction, and we want to be involved in that movement as well. So that would be mass timber panel systems that are insulated and basically dropped onto wood or specifically glulam post and beam structures. So this brings specifically sort of guaranteed low thermal bridging versus say concrete and steel structures that have inherently been poor in terms of energy performance. Brings that air barrier assurance I talked about before, and I think the last and the one that it's not actually factored into passive house is low embodied energy of materials. This sort of revolution in wood and carbon neutral cycle of using wood in construction is regaining popularity, and that's a market that we want to develop and be involved in.
Excellent, Kyle. Again, tell everyone at BC Passive keep up the great work. Yeah, and heading over to the Rocky Mountains. What's going on with you guys?
Yeah, so well, I guess the next little while for us, I think I'm quite excited about it. We're definitely, this is year 6 for us in our present shop, which is a fairly modest size, a modest size building, and it's a fairly analog system. We use CAD work to develop our models, and it's a fairly sophisticated program, as everyone knows, to create shop drawings, but that's where our process becomes fairly analog. And I think that the fact that we've been building this way for quite some time, for 6 years, it sort of connected us really well to site framing, which is where Collective Carpenter came from. So we have a pretty good understanding of how to build high performance on site. And then we have valid reasons why we shifted to the shop. And now we're really excited about taking the next step, which is to kind of follow in the footsteps of some of our esteemed peers and make the move towards a bigger operation, which will allow us to build more buildings, increase quality, inevitably bring costs down, incorporate some shiny tools and some automation, and really just kind of keep pushing the envelope of building. So that's a pretty huge endeavor, obviously something we're really excited about. And as well, we've done a fair bit of work recently in the US market, and we have an amazingly skilled US install crew that works with us, and we're really excited to do a little bit more work in the US, and just grow the business and keep on just trying to increase the quality of the housing stock and create healthy buildings for people to live in. So pretty exciting times.
Excellent. Love it. It's great. Bill?
Yeah, the biggest thing that we'll be participating as a company is that market transformation is sharing standardized content. It's all about generating content that is shareable on the design process from the offsite manufacturer. Going back to standardized content shared that's customizable is a true success factor that we'll be participating in. To that end, we have a system that's been defined. It's in its 5th year. coming here in 2021, version 5 for our building system. In addition to that, we've just turned on live our first Passive House certified project home that's available for a short-term stay, so people can come experience what that's like. But that's a powerful piece in the marketplace because many people have not stayed a night in a Passive House. And then lastly, we've got our co-living building that's pictured behind me here that's coming online here in 2021 as well. We're really pumped about these few endeavors. Thank you.
Yeah, you know what, Bill, you said it right. When we got an opportunity to do the Icebox Challenge, it's great to showcase the benefits of Passive House, but people really need to experience the difference of a Passive House, and the fact it's prefabricated is so cool. And I know, Doug, you talked about co-housing, and you know, that's again a great market to be targeting. So fantastic stuff. All right, we're heading east to Abby. What's going on with you guys? What's the plan for your growth?
Well, we want to stay ahead of the wave here. It's been extremely long days and a lot of exciting conversations. Our first and foremost, and it's kind of embarrassing, but it's the elephant in the room for us, is we want to improve our marketing. Our website is kind of a hurting one. It doesn't represent well. It gives good information, but it doesn't represent well the success stories we have on our projects. But that's because our team, we've been really focused on our processes and our successes in the operations itself. Some of the things we're really excited about to share is just our community involvement. We are getting involved with some of the community housing groups. We are also 2021, we are setting up our own housing development projects. Wanting to bring this type of quality to, you know, everyday people that really want to be cared for and move forward. We've been making a big difference. We've been hoping to make a solid impact with the trades and the awareness of product. I think that's another key thing. We've had such great support with 475 and others, but it's just a big thing. And I really do want to give kudos. They often don't get a lot of respect, but we've been seeing some significant government changes and government opportunities. And developers, you know, we've been involved with a few developers even about 10 months ago with our training. And I was really impressed how they are thinking now outside of the box to create their new box in the Passive House world and how that's going to impact people. So that's been really exciting. And if I could mention something else that we're modeling and we're hoping to have success, and if this could reach out to anyone else on the panel or out there, our philosophy and our character at Quantum is really more so the fishing rod, not just the fish. So we've had conversations with some Aboriginal communities in wanting to bring our shop setup and system to their own community and mentor and guide them to constructing their own home. And if that seems like something of a deeper conversation for anyone, please reach out to me, because I think the more we can make such a difference in the communities, we can actually have people really enjoying the quality of what this does, not only to their lifestyle, but just to, you know, just to their well-being.
Abby, that's great points. And your website's fine. It'll grow, buddy. Just and that's why we're here, right? You know, the Passive House Accelerator is here to help out, promote all of you, and we can just say, you know what, just call Abby. He's a great guy. Just, you know, talk to the main thing. So no.
Yeah, we have prospects say, if you didn't send us to Dropbox, we would never have guessed it.
I know Scott Kennedy's in the queue for questions, but he's got a project that maybe I'll get him to just highlight, because he actually was able to work with the government and work with the First Nations and their finger joint stud factory to be able to do a multifamily project with them. So maybe I'll get Scott to talk about that. That's pretty exciting. Again, sorry, we're going to go back now to the US with Doug. Doug, what's going on with Bensonwood in the next little bit here?
Well, we've already expanded facilities, upgraded our equipment. We've been investing a lot of time into our associates and training and improving internally. I think the biggest hurdle that I think we all have to try to work towards is getting the carbon taxed and emissions taxed. I mean, that's a big one, because I think if there's an economic incentive, then I think we'll have a lot more early adopters into investing in large multifamily co-housing family projects. We'll even see retrofit opportunities with institutional and school projects. So I think the idea of just really making sure we're staying in touch and in tune with the environmental impact of what we're doing. You know, are we really making an impact with improving the future? And a lot can be done probably within the next 2 to 3 years. So there's a lot of continual improvement and training internally with our installers, but also needing to train the MEP subtrades, because I feel like if the subcontractors and the contractors have more agency and involvement early in the process, then I think we're going to have a less resistance and pushback, you know, to trying something new and different. Technology, obviously, I mentioned earlier, is really important. Improving how we open source share our information. I think Abby brought that up, or one of the other contributors. So I think the ability to streamline what we're sharing, the details with the engineers and the architects, is pretty critical, you know, so we can shorten the time of project development. And I think the main thing is just facilitating conversations early in the process. So we're always looking to improve on how my teams are working with builders, with subtrades, to make that process easier. So it's a never-ending process. So and we try to hold the line and do the best we can do.
Yes, continuous improvement is definitely a key in manufacturing. So great stuff, Doug. I mean, you guys are doing fantastic stuff. All right, we've got one last person to chime in on his future. Chris, what's going on with you guys? Zach, he did it again. He didn't unmute himself. Look at him ramble on, and we can't hear his fantastic answer. We set him off, and now he's
That one on mute. All right. So, I mean, it's 2020. This year's been like completely nuts for everybody. I mean, we've all been adapting to an incredible amount of change. I agree with Doug completely. His notion that there needs to be a carbon tax, I think, is integral to the expansion of all things having to do with the reduction of the global warming potential on the planet. Relative to what we've been doing, I mean, we had some ups and downs this year. We've been experiencing growth year over year. This year was not a growth year, so we spent time investing in equipment and infrastructure within our company, building out our administrative side, streamlining contractual processes and all administrative processes, so that we can put ourselves in a position where we're better equipped to deal with the impending tsunami in 2021 that is coming. We have just purchased another CNC machine and have begun doing casework and millwork to be able to offer faster times to ownership for many of our clients, as well as maintaining high levels of custom interiors. So we've added that. And in terms of looking towards the future, I think we're just going to build on the same premise that we started with, which is making small incremental improvements in our processes and our day-to-day activities every single day. And every single person that's a part of our company has bought into that and is contributing to that process. And I think if we just maintain doing what we're doing, we're going to be in a good place in the future.
Yeah, and Chris, again, if you keep going with the passion you have for Passive House and prefab, I mean, it's infectious. So just keep with that, and I can see why your company culture is fantastic. So great stuff.
Saving the world, man! Come on.
Bill, I just want to come back to you because I want to know the address of where, once we get rid of the pandemic, we all have our vaccines, where we can come and stay at your Passive House cabin. So put that in the chat because I'll be booking that weekend for sure. I think we all can need a getaway. So please do that, Bill. Okay, we've got lots of questions booked out. We may not get there. We got 35 minutes to the top of the hour. So I guess we might have to do this again, folks. So if we don't get you, don't worry. We'll sort this out. The first question that I know was probably answered, but let's just ask it again. John Bokala, you talking about more systems in the elements. You asked about windows. John, you still there?
Yeah. Hey guys. Thanks everybody. Question is, who essentially who's installing windows in the factory and shipping to site? If you're not, what are some of the things that is making you not do it? And then I'm also curious about like shipping with drywall. Who's doing that? So those are my two kind of questions. So have at her, guys.
Can speak to one of these for you. We are pre-installing a window system made in Colorado. The brand is Alpin Windows. They make a nice product, pH certified, that sort of thing. And we're pre-installing them into a panel that we can ship vertically and safely. Obviously, that panel won't ship flat if the window's pre-installed. And we're doing that in a way that it's in a panel orientation that's also not beyond the size of a defined size of panel. So it's not going to be something that's, beyond the parameters of what that is. And a good way to find that out is in the pre-planned stage, just understanding max min sizes by Alpin, the manufacturer, and then using our building system to refer to what sizes fit into a panel. Yep.
I can maybe elaborate on Bill's point there. We've done it before, and up until now, we've been mostly building custom residential, so big houses with big doors and big glazing, and a lot of the time, just the windows simply don't fit into an available panel size, and we can only wind up doing a couple windows. So it really does come down to design of the house, and I think going into the future, if it's prefab in multi-unit residential stuff where you have consistent panel sizes and consistent window sizes, and you can really deliver the majority of the windows as pre-installed, and then you can get within the factory, get as far as your exterior insulation details and siding, etc. So it really does take a design approach in advance before we can pull it off.
Gotcha. I know Doug wanted to add something too. Go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, John, so for installing windows and doors in a panel, the key thing is understanding the installation details first, because that's one of the most critical details for properly air sealing the building is how you install those. So factory installation for us is really critical. Equally as critical is the order lead time for a window and door package. So for us, we have preferred manufacturers that we work with. If we are working with an outlier manufacturer, usually we set that up with the general contractor to purchase that. That's because of the warranty and service agreement. That's more of the technical long-term aspect of it. But as Bill and Kyle both shared, the size of the window opening can certainly be managed and adjusted based on curtain wall details. A lot of projects that we've built, we actually integrate large mass timber ROs as part of the curtain wall assembly, so it actually accentuates those assemblies, but also the shipping optimization. We have a 10-foot 7.5 shipping height limitation. So when we're dealing with multifamily and co-housing projects, they're more predictable, as Kyle was sharing, because you're stacking those systems in a way that there's either repeatability, so there's a lot of efficiency there. But I think and then in terms of your question about drywalling, we used to install drywall in the past, but in terms of stitching the building systems together on site requires air sealing and taping the exterior and the interior. So we leave that off. Plus we also have the surface layer cavity that we've been using since the beginning of time that affords the MEP trades to freely run their work, and they're trying to run outlets, so on and so forth, through those panels. So you want to leave that drywall off.
Excellent stuff. And again, I know we have some other prefab companies online. If they want to unmute and maybe answer as well, I'm definitely open to to that, I'm going to ramble on for about 10 seconds until they either don't come on or unless any of the other speakers want to chime in here. But no, really.
So I just wanted to chime in on the window installation thing and echo what Doug had said. Like, we're installing windows and doors in 100% of our projects. Almost all of the windows and doors are installed in our panels and are shipped like safely and effectively. And like everybody else, we're building large custom projects, but we've developed a system to be able to ship these large expanses of glass like safely and effectively. The exception of that being the doors. The doors we do not flash and weather seal in the factory. We install them in the factory, we ship them in the factory, including lift and slides, and then we uninstall them and reinstall them in the field. So again, like Doug had mentioned, like accessing exterior and interior for air sealing, I think is extremely important. And shipping drywall, I haven't found it to be pragmatic in the sense of being cost effective overall relative to the project while being able to maintain high levels of air tightness. So
John, I'll just say, why use drywall? You just use, plywood or mango board or other things. No, but I get it. I mean, even modular companies have issues with drywall. I mean, they're using automotive dryers to try to speed up the process, because that's really the bottleneck in all prefabrication is that one component. So you either remove it from the process or figure out how to do it faster, or just put the boards on, leave the taping on site. So again, I didn't hear any other prefabbers who are joining us today want to jump in on this. Oh, Jan, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we feel like for us, there's a little bit of a limitation due to our shop size. We don't have a very large shop, so the idea of bringing windows and doors into the shop and then putting them in, it just doesn't seem to, it's just not really a high priority for us. I can completely understand if the idea of with pre-designed plans that have multiple units that can be maybe ordered as inventory or stockpiled as inventory and then put in the shop. But we're finding there's a pretty huge disconnect between our fabrication schedule and the delivery timeline of windows. So for us, it hasn't really shown itself to be a big advantage. We would love to do it. I think I agree with everybody else. The integrity of the building envelope would be, it's just a great thing to be able to do that detailing in the shop with all your tapes and peel and sticks and everything at shop control temperatures and the attention to detail that you can get from standing on the ground and working at elbow height. But I just don't think it really works for us. We also have high mountain passes that we have to go over all the time. So yeah, really, really interested in it. Would love to do it, but just not doing it right now.
If I may, Sean.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're actually, we're really excited. We have a project coming up, an install first week of December, that we are going to be going with a window install in shop for the first time. So this year we have transitioned from our completely sealed and structural panel to now being installing our service cavities on all of our panels and sending out our partition wall and ceiling packages, so that it's all, because we'll put a 2,000 square foot house up completely in one day. So the exciting thing that we've been hoping to experience with the windows, and I'd love to reach out to a few of you that are already doing it, is what we're hoping to see or achieve in that process is, because our team, we do the complete overframing as well in the insulation, and a lot of our projects are going for certification. That's an additional measure that we can do in shop. And although we've trained a lot of skilled trades, it does take good eyes on the ground to oversee that it's being done thoroughly, not from the finish, but from the underside, because that's where the trap happens. So that's a measure for our quality control that we're hoping to see. And I'm happy to share after we experienced this, was it cost effective or not? We're hoping it to be.
Abby, thanks for leaving us with more to come back with. I love when we, to be continued stories. This is great. Just again, we've got 6 fabulous people on the panel here today, but the other ones that are joining us, we've got Alan Gibson's from Geologic, Paul from Build Smart, Travis from Eco Cocoon. Thank you for your beautiful photo. That was our promo pic. David Arnett from Tag Panels, Jeremy from Simple Life Homes, Jonah Stanford from B Public. Who knows, maybe that'll be the Prefab Summit number 2. We'll have them in there. But again, great to have so many people here. If I missed you, put into the chat. Again, we want to grow the prefab market because we do need to make the changes. Thank you for chiming in on that particular answer. I know Scott Kennedy had one. And so Scott.
Hi, just a little background. We are doing a project in northern British Columbia for First Nation, and our plan is to prefab it in their local shop and train them how to do it. So we're going to do the shop drawings, and the panel will be, our intent is to do 2 panels. There's an inner structural panel, which would just be a standard 2x6 with OSB. We'll tape and seal that on the exterior for the air barrier. And then we're going to bring in a finger joint 2x4 stud, so like a Larson Truss panel, and put that in place with strapping and ready for probably the Mento product on the outside. Shout out to 475. And then we would actually fill it on site. What I'm worried about is when we try to lift that panel, it doesn't have any sheathing on it. And how are we going to make sure that it's stabilized? And we weren't planning to necessarily we were talking about putting some metal cross braces. And I'm just bringing a piece of lifting panels and what we should be looking out for lifting panel.
Anybody want to jump on this where it's a panel that's not sheathed? I know maybe more on the East Coast, there's a lot more building without that. I know.
Well, Scott, you'd mentioned there is a structural diaphragm outside of the 2x6 wall, right?
Actually, I think about it, it's a finger joint 2x4 load wall, and it's a finger joint 2x4, finger joint 2x4 panel. And the plan, what I was thinking of doing was putting a metal cross brace just within those, on each side of those panels, just to stabilize them while we lift them. So, and then fully sheet between the 2x4s on, wherever there's a window or the end panel or something like that. So we get some stability, but I just don't know too much about lifting these things and how you lift them. And when you guys lift these panels, especially if you see them full of insulation, there must be some significant considerations there when you're lifting those, craning those things. That's what I was curious about.
Yeah, those considerations are weight, flexion, torsion, suction, all of those things. At the end of the day, if you have a properly diaphragmed structural layer, which whether it's 2x4 or 2x6, it's going to come down to how long is the panel and how much does it weigh. We've built panels that are as long as 33 feet. And we've lifted in place panels that have been as long as 33 feet without any problems. But we've done that with our EcoCore passive assembly with the I-joist outrigger, which creates a substantial amount of rigidity relative to continuous insulation. If you were to use that 2x4 product on the outside and to fasten that somehow into the interior load-bearing structure, I mean, although you're creating a thermal bridge, that would create some rigidity to the structure, but without, looking at what you're trying to do, it's hard to say.
Scott, you might also consider when you apply the barrier to the exterior, maybe incorporating the strapping on a diagonal. And it really comes down to what your exterior finish is going to be. So combination of getting some structural rigidity, on our panels, our shear layers to the interior. So we have a 7/16 OSB layer attached to our framing members. So we keep our shear to the interior of that. The other thing to think about is the type of equipment you're planning to use to install. What's the most cost effective, based on how much time you're going to spend on site. So obviously the lighter those assemblies, the better, but then you might be losing time and efficiency by trying to get that building plumb level and square. So you might just kind of revisit your construction detail and kind of look at the cost savings by maybe incorporating a rigid material to stiffen it that'll stay in place, remain in place, which will then in the end reduce your amount of time to get you to that point where you can get it weathered in. So, lightness is important. The ability that most anyone can use the equipment to construct what you're doing is obviously important. And then getting that rigidity. So maybe that's a combination of some diagonal strapping.
Yeah, now,
If
we were talking diagonal strapping, but using just a little thin metal strap, partly because we're worried about the air gap, because we have building codes that say your rain screen can't be more than 1.5 inches thick. For fire reasons, it's a 3-story multifamily. So there are some other considerations.
Right, fire code. Right, good point.
So may I ask, is this a one-off project or one of many?
The intent of this project is to train a first group to build how to build a passive house prefab panel, and to give them the tools to be able to start their own business sometime in the future. And we're thinking, as Northern BC, there are not a lot of projects. So the idea would be that if one can do most of the work in a factory, and then the workers go off just to erect it, they can stay at home, live with their families, and have a better life. That's kind of what it's all about in our mind. And we do have some grant money to train them. It's kind of an exciting project. And I'm sure Sean is going to come up and actually help us with a hands-on training session at one point when we get closer to the end. So
well,
that was one question I had. Yeah, sorry.
With that in mind, then, I know something that we've had to do on a few other projects. And even we got an award from the Heritage Group in Allura on a project. Something you might want to consider that we've been looking at with some of our non-load bearing panels, because obviously the connecting points are they're not as strong as load bearing, so the deflection and the twist of the panels is different. We've been designing manufactured clamps and clips that are quick release. So they actually take they disperse the deflection of the panel with these reusable catches that attach to the cranes. So that's why I asked if this is one of many projects, because that could be a process that allows a simple panel to work using the hardware properly, not building the panel to be able to take the weight itself.
That sounds like something I better talk to you further on, Abby. Thanks for that.
Yeah, Scott, I think, again, you've got 6 amazing firms here to reach out. And, you guys I know have done a lot with Ian Granville, who again has been amazing to help out you with your design. But yeah, you might need to connect with one of these guys to finalize the process. And again,
if I can squeeze one other question in, we do a lot of 5- and 6-story buildings, and we keep talking about prefab exterior walls. My concern is always that we frame the interior walls typically using, standard studs and standard plates. And I always worry about the shrinkage between a load-bearing exterior wall and an interior wall. It's not a big deal in a 2-story house, but in a 6-story building, that can be an inch and a half difference. And I wonder if any of you guys have had any experience looking with those kind of problems.
Well, why don't, before I come to Travis, I know Travis is waiting. Kyle, you guys have done multifamily, and how did you guys factor that out, especially with the Whistler Passive House?
We had kind of a modified, it was like a hybrid platform and balloon frame structure there. that's kind of allowed us to get around the whole plate shrinkage idea. And then the end panels, so like the rim joist of our floor panels was LSL rather than standard dimension lumber. So in terms of radial shrinkage, we didn't really experience a whole lot.
Thanks.
Anybody else that Monty you want to talk about dealing with shrinkage and dimensions and all the fun stuff? Well, before someone picks up here, just to think about in prefab though, these factories are building down to millimeter construction. So it's not like you're maybe a typical framer, not to say anything bad about framers, about tolerances, but these automative prefabricated systems are millimeter precision, which is pretty amazing. So I know that can help out with how things can grow. Go ahead, Chris.
No, I was just gonna answer Scott relative to interior wall shrinkage versus exterior wall shrinkage. It really comes down to materiality and how it's fastened. Like the linear coefficient of expansion of SPF, if it's being used structurally in both conditions, is relatively similar. It just comes down to what is the nailing pattern on the structural diaphragm of that SPF and what is the nailing pattern on the interior walls, and not being able to pick up those studs across the field of the interior walls is likely the difference between that and the exterior walls. And I think that absolutely should be considered.
Excellent. Thanks, Chris. Travis, I know you wanted to chime in. Say hello.
Great. Yeah. Thanks, Sean. Yeah. So I'll just say a quick thing because I can't stay on too much longer, but I appreciate it. So I don't know if Peter's on here, but Peter and I are working with Eco Cocoon, where our company is called Build with Nature, and we're representing the Eco Cocoon building panel, which is a prefabricated double stud wall that's infilled with straw, and been over 10 years in manufacturing and really successful, certified as a IPHI component and cradle to cradle certification, among other tests, fire testing, seismic testing. So it's fully vetted. And so those are available now in the States and in Canada through our company. We're trying to promote that. And that's a structural component that doesn't require sheathing layers. So it has a diagonal bracing built into it. And so it's a fully vapor open and diffuse structural component. And obviously a very sustainable insulation and highly insulated building panels. So that's the basis of our system. We're cooperating with 475, which is why you may have seen some of our panels on the flyer there for airtightness. We definitely want to advocate for an airtight building in these assemblies. And yeah, I don't know. I guess that's kind of the gist of it. I don't know if Peter, if you're still on the line, if you want to say anything further about what's going on in Build with Nature.
Yeah, I am. So thank you, everybody. Yeah, so we present Eco Cocoon in the United States. It's a prefab straw panel, and it's the way that every builder can be prefab, manufacture that way. That so we have all the straw panels. Any architect with any design they have, we can make a straw panel that fit exactly around their windows and their design. And any builder can build it up, actually just putting the straw panel in place. So that is the way that any builder can be making work with prefab buildings. Some things about 4 people in around a day can build around 1,200 square foot buildings. So it's a way that we can close the buildings with millimeter accuracy, putting up the buildings very, very quickly, and have all the studs finished for the roof. And in a few days, 2 or 3 days, you have closed the buildings in very, very quickly. So all with straw panel, instead of using, if you're using spray foam insulation, we're spending 120 years energy consumption, where we have minus 35 energy consumptions because we're working with straw. So we're very excited and look forward to make a lot of new buildings here in the United States.
Thanks, Peter, and thanks, Travis. I know you guys got featured in a Discovery Channel show, and there's a lot of drama in that episode. But again, the details that were shown were fantastic, and again, very slick system. And one thing that you've all mentioned, which again I appreciate significantly, is just the implementation and just the focus on the low embodied carbon and again, there are other products and other prefab products out there, and the carbon discussion has really been ramped up in the last year. And so again, exciting that you guys are all aware of that in your processes. So fantastic. I was going to go to Stephen, but he has left us, and so we've got about 4 minutes of questions before, and just to point out is, if again we missed a lot of the questions, I know Mary and Jay and Sydney have a whole bunch of articles they can now write on the accelerator. So if before you leave, you might want to click on the 3 dots before or on the right of the chat to save some of these questions. We have and we'll ensure that we can connect and answer these. And as we said, there's been enough promise and discussion here that I think I can convince Zach and Mike to do another summit. So we will get back to this. And they're easy to just push because they love this as much as I do. So it's great. The next one we had in the queue was Larissa. Let's just see if, so I'll just quickly just check in. And then we have Adam. I know, did Adam? Shoot. Zach, why don't you just put you on the spot. If you want to just reiterate the suppliers and some of the events you want to pop up, that first slide that just talked about Tuesday's event, and you do that. And I'm just going to just double check in the queue here of a couple of people that asked questions and see if we can bring them on before we wrap up.
Yeah, you bet. So we've got the Global Passive House Happy Hour on Wednesday that features Marisa Ejea and Elena Reyes, who will be talking about the pilot program of Passive House projects across Mexico. Should be super interesting. So please join us, and the registration link is in the chat. And then so that's on Wednesday, but the day before that, we're having our first Construction Tech Tuesday, and we want you to join us because it's going to be pretty fun, and lots of familiar faces and some fun surprises. So I also have the link to that in chat. And just in case I don't get another chance to say this, I want to thank again the 475 High Performance Building Supply for being the summit sponsor tonight and making all this happen. Thank you.
It's great. Thanks, Zach. So Mark pointed out it's 2 sleeps to his BS Fridays. It is 6 sleeps until Tuesday and 7 sleeps until it's even less than that. I can't even get that.
One sleep, Sean, between Thursday and Friday. That's 1 sleep.
Where did this happen? We talk all this time. Before COVID, you had to travel to some place to learn about Passive House. Now, within 36 weeks, we have gone across North America to see 6 amazing fabricators. I've completely lost time because I don't sleep anymore, because all I do is watch all these different videos that everyone has. And there's just so much amazing information that the accelerator is putting out on Passive House that I can't keep up. And if my family ever asks me a question, the first answer is, it depends. And yes, we have an answer. It's Passive House related, and I spill off one of the 5 Passive House principles in all of my answers. So I'm sure all of you do that as well. I'm sure of it. You know what? Let me just jump up to someone.
Are you looking for the next question? So
the next 3 have left us.
Okay, so there's Daniel Piselli. Is Daniel on the line? Or Brett Seriani? These are from the very beginning. So.
Sorry, yeah. Here.
Oh, great. We got to your question.
Yeah, only 45 minutes later, Brett. We're doing good.
Sorry, I'm gonna attack the dogs first. Sorry, guys.
No worries.
And thanks to Brett that you showed up. We did get you.
So I have the question. The question was what lifted. Well, let's go to Enrico Bueno if Enrico is here. Enrique.
Yes,
Sorry.
let's talk Enrico, who again is lucky to have Enrico in the Passive House community with all of his teaching and education courses. In the US, if you want to learn more about the Passive House course, sign up for their tradesperson course. Enrico and Mariana's is fantastic course. I know Harvey was even looking for questions or answers to the tradesperson test that's coming up this weekend. So is Enrico still with us?
Yep.
All right, fire away. Good to see you. Fabulous course, by the way.
But no, I didn't take the course. Maybe you're talking
about.
about.
I'm confusing Enrico with Mariana. Sorry, Enrico, but you know what? I love you too. I'm glad you showed up today.
It's because I said it's because I pronounced Enrique's name incorrectly. I apologize, Enrique.
That's okay.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
You got a question?
I had a question originally, but it was answered. We're looking here. We're trying to make like a consortium of people to see if we can start the energy sprung here in Vermont. I'm with the Vermont Passive House organization here, chairing it. So that's what we are digging in, investigating it. So I don't think at this point that there's anybody here prefabricating anything. So our idea was to try to join forces with either Chris or with Geologics or with anybody around here in Vermont, that could do that. And we would supply the local infrastructure for that. So that's
reach out to Doug and Chris. Zach, do we have anybody else?
Yeah, Peter Reppy is next, and then Jason Wen.
Peter, go ahead. I think you're there. Geez, our question concierge is not as good as we do on the happy hour, I tell you.
Brett is back, Mark says. Brett Seriani, are you ready for your question?
Yeah, hi guys. Sorry about that.
We welcome dogs to the prefab passive house market as well. We need our friends, our furry ones. Go for it.
Yeah, well, they're big enough. So no, my question really was with regards to the rigging and lifting sort of methods that you guys use for the panels in order to protect the air barrier. Now I know you can use lifting eyes and rigs and that sort of thing, or just a simple sling. But how do you protect the weather and air barriers, at installation and during delivery, so that it's not ruined at time of installation?
All right, we're getting to the meat of the details here. I love it. I mean, I think all the prefabbers have different methods, but anyone want to chime in on the?
Sure.
How do you lift something up that weighs thousands of pounds, land it in millimeter precision, so we can build and tie into our passive house components and tie in the air barrier stuff? How do we do it?
So Brett, one of the things is that with the walls, we're shipping those vertically because we have the windows and doors pre-installed. If you go to some of the videos that we have on more recently our Unity Home site, you'll see more recent installs, so you'll get an idea of how we pick. But typically, we're using a seatbelt material that we pre-plan at key pick points on the panels. So with the walls, we're essentially picking those and lifting those right in place. With floors and roof systems, we're picking those flat. And so they'll have a series of pick points using seatbelt strapping that's already in place. And then after that's, after we've located the panels, that system will get cut and you're done. So we're already like incorporating the install sequence of how you can minimize touching or damaging those systems. We really don't require a large layout area because of the way that we organize and manage the panel for the install sequence. So that's pretty critical as well. So it comes down to using the right material, pre-installing that for the pick points. We're planning that when we're engineering those systems and how we break up the panels. So that's another thing to think about.
So if there's holes in the panels and that sort of thing where you're, I guess, feeding through the, I guess, your lashing or your belt material, are those, you know, plugged up on site after in order to maintain things? Or
Yeah, they're air sealed and taped.
Yeah, okay. All right. Interesting. Thanks.
We use a crane lifting strap in our system, and we actually are using a ×3 load capacity, because inside of our panels, a lot of times on projects that we're at, we're in the wind belts, or we're in areas where a panel can start a spin out on us pretty easy. So a spreader bar is actually great for distributing the load and that, you know, taking the pressure off the panel. But we're fully engineered, so we actually engineer our panel to actually take that that press, I guess, of the straps to the internal of the panel, because the spreader bar sometimes works against the center point of a panel. So it could start spinning, but it could also start flopping. So we try to minimize that. And our successes has been beefing up the engineering on our lift points that is fixed and fastened within the panel and spread throughout the joining studs. So that when we do, just like Doug said, we cut the straps off afterwards. So it's a cost of doing business. But when we do eliminate the strap, we're able to insulate that portion and get our tapes and membranes sealed. Before that, because everything is already weather sealed when it's waiting for shipping, or it's been shipped to site and it's waiting overnight, we're already protecting that area for the lifting points. And because of that, we're actually able, our average install time of panels similar size to what Chris was talking about, because we can panelize up to 33 feet. We'll install a panel on average in 5 minutes, and that's our connecting. As soon as we attach our hooks and detach our hooks, that's our average install time.
Great stuff, guys.
Thanks, Abby.
So everyone knows it's we're in a bonus time right now. I'm going to call it overtime, mainly because my wife hasn't called me to say it's dinner time. So, but again, you know, we've had 300 amazing people arrive and listen to us today. So if you do have to go, totally fine. I'm going to keep going until I get yelled at for my wife to come to dinner, which she said 15 minutes. So we've got some good overtime. But if any of the panelists do need to leave, you guys can. We've kept you for 2 fabulous hours. You've given lots of details and private stuff about what you're up to, which is fantastic. You know, and just before you guys do go away, I just want to say, you know, for years, my company that I followed was Balfritz. It's a company in Europe that's, you know, been doing prefab for 35 years, been business of 100. But I can say that I don't need to go across the pond to look for amazing prefab companies. We have them here. You guys are here. And I, you know, again, we'll be promoting you as hard and as fast as we can so you guys can grow. But just thank you for, you know, I love Chris, you just talked about it was where, you know, 2009, you just fell in love with the process and you did it and you put your whole heart into it. And all of you, you know, we see all of your companies improving and exceeding. And even with COVID, you know, persevering with more adversity. And again, we all are here to support all your efforts and keep the ball going because, you know, we have a shortage of workers, skilled workers, and the prefab is really like the only method to go. And we just need to figure out how to convert developers and builders and the construction industry to just get on board because you guys are on doing it. And we just need to help you guys scale and move things forward. So Abby, you know, we're here for the marketing efforts, but the rest of you guys, you know, we got to figure out how to make sure we can get you some good employees and figure out how to get you some good financing so you can buy these amazing machines and and work on all the design codes and convert architects to work with your designs and your processes to help you guys scale. So just great stuff. I know we still have more questions. Zach queued up a few more. Jason Wen, if you are still with us.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yeah, far away with your question.
Great. I'm working in Vancouver here, and we're already seeing the prefab walls bleeding into our market in terms of low rise, mid rise, high rise, and with our energy targets locally, it's the only way to go in the future. There's just no way around it for high rise buildings. So for prefab suppliers here, do you have plans for proving that your wall panels can withstand mid to high rise applications? Will they be tested for wind load? Will they be tested for interstory drift, thermal cycling, for durability, all the stuff that engineers will be asking for in the future?
Yeah, before I ask a few people, I mean, it's interesting when we look at the multifamily, you know, the truss manufacturers started producing trusses in a factory, then we started doing open walls. And so a lot of multifamily projects have already been doing prefab for years, but they're just supplying 2x6 and either OSB or plywood. But now it comes down to how do they scale up to the high performance? And luckily we've got prefabbers here tonight that are already doing it. So maybe Doug or Kyle, you might want to touch on this a little bit of what some of the testing processes and methods you've had to do to ensure that you could target multifamily.
I can respond initially. That's a great question, Jason. So we are, as I mentioned earlier, we're a full service design build firm. So we spend a good deal of time and effort engineering the systems that we're putting out to the market. So if it's project specific, you know, we are working directly with the project team, you know, with the outside architect and engineer to determine what the structural requirements will be for our systems, because our systems can tailor to the specific engineering load and requirements. So the performance requirements is also another reason why we're in the passive house market. That's why we're here. So we've really invested close to 2 decades in getting to the point where we are now with providing vapor open assemblies. I think the biggest hurdle is the fire rating. And so with the fire rating code, I mean, I think the biggest investment from the developer's perspective is make sure you understand the code for the building before going too far. So then when you're working with the architecture and engineering teams, they're tailoring the systems to optimize fire safety in addition to the performance measures of the building.
Yeah, no, Doug, good point. And this may, while it's good to get Kyle to pop on because he's doing or looking at mass timber in their processes, and mass timber does work well, some of the fire rating. So maybe Kyle, want to talk about some of the, you know, things that you guys have done to hit that market?
Yeah, so I mean, we're sort of in the design development stage. It seems so far that, I mean, engineering is not easy, but certainly, I mean, and we're going to be designing for the Vancouver market, which is really a seismic focused market. So yeah, certain connectors are designed for lateral drift. Also, it's basically the system is going to be like a structural post and beam where we're hanging on the exterior mass timber panel, and that's going to provide insulation as well as lateral structure. But beyond structure, there's fire that you mentioned, and then there's also enveloping, which is a serious challenge. The fire I can't speak to a whole lot, but the enveloping system is interesting because it has to stay in touch or intact, and we're also allowing the panels to move. So there we're designing a gasket-based system that's because it can't really be a wet sealed system that dries. If the panels move, then the air barriers and moisture barrier will crack, etc. So for us, the biggest challenge is actually like a gasket system that can be installed mostly in our shop and set up and at, you know, extreme heights, then applied efficiently so that we can achieve all 3 of those things.
Yeah, Jason, really good question, especially, sorry, Abby, I'll let you chime in a second here. Like in Vancouver, we're talking about 60-story passive house towers. We've got a 40-story mass timber passive house. So, you know, we're taking things to a whole new level. And the question is how do we prefab some of that and most of it? Because to make it fast and efficient, we're gonna need to solve a lot of those solutions in a factory. Abby, go ahead.
And it's great to hear how companies are moving forward in doing that. I know with our system, we're able to go to that 6-story with minimal engineering adjustment. But, you know, I just want to point out another thing, though, going back to the retrofit piece. There's been a lot of exciting development with the developers who've been stepping in and seeing the value of a lot of government-owned or funded projects being retrofitted with cladding systems. And I think that is another key area for prefabbers to keep a focus of development on, because as land becomes scarce, there is a lot of focus on these great buildings to be rejuvenated and retrofitted. And we have some excellent examples of that in Southern Ontario, and I'm looking forward to it coming further north. But that being said, that was a great question, and something that really does open conversation, not only to the new, but also considering what needs to be done in the retrofit old, you know?
Yeah, Abby, honestly, you guys are gonna be busy for a long time. So again, it's fantastic to see all the different options that can be used to keep you going. Okay, I think I'll keep pushing until my wife knocks on the door. Chris Chan, you got a question, and Chris, just give yourself a bit of an intro, because people should know who you are, what services, because I know you just installed a beautiful line in BC Passive House. But you had a question about 58 minutes ago. Hopefully you remember.
Thanks. Hey, Sean. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I had a question about the windows and doors, so thanks for answering that. I do have another question about the, I guess we deal with some of the producers who are just doing panels. Is there, like, I guess, what do you see as a space for them as far as passive house? Do they really have to grow into modular? Or do you think that there's a place for panelized factories to come into this space? So yeah, thanks. Yeah. But so by the way, like I represent Circle America and Rangate, but we help folks to design their wood windows and get them certified through PHI, through the process, and then also help offsite construction factories to plan the layout and also provide them framing equipment. So yeah, thanks.
Great question. Again, thanks for helping out the industry, providing excellent equipment at affordable rate that is fast and quick to install. And hopefully I'll be up to see BC Passiv's new line soon enough, and we can show off all that fancy stuff. And so great stuff. Anybody you want to talk about? Again, most of you again are doing elements, but you know, the option of getting into modular or having separate lines to do things, either module pods.
So I'll speak to that a little bit. I think that, you know, in construction, whether it's passive house or any element of construction, you've got all these different tools in the toolbox, right? And so panelization is one of the tools in the toolbox that I think offers enough flexibility to articulate any architectural ethos that can be developed. And although they may not always be super cost-effective solutions, there are solutions to meet any typology, right? And so I think that's the flexibility of panelization, I think is an important characteristic. Now you talk about modularization, that's a completely different animal, right? Now you're talking about a very close to turnkey situation where you're plopping down a geometric cuboid and then replicating that over a period of time and then putting a roof on it somehow, and then filling in all the spaces where the components come together. And I think there's pros and cons to both aspects. That being said, we have just developed a passive house ADU structure that is essentially 13 feet wide by 40 feet long, that is essentially a 1-bedroom apartment that is completely turnkeyed into a module and has the capacity to be replicated on a larger scale over a period of time. We're just at the outset of beta testing, but it has worked and it has been successful. And I think that you have to look at both paradigms in terms of the value that they offer for each particular situation. And I don't think there's a broad spectrum solution for every situation, but I think that modularization caters towards larger commercial projects that are repeatable and replicable over a period of time, and panelization caters towards custom architecture that is maybe replicable, but more oftentimes bespoke based on the situation and the context of the building site and the environment that the building is going to live in.
That was perfectly said, and I know what we've been experiencing is the panel really allows us to be diverse in projects and opportunities out there, that a specific project has their own requirements and needs. So Chris, that was spot on. What we've been looking at, we're hoping to launch in 2021 our Quantum Cube. But that is a modular preset package. It is a complete system, turnkey, that's delivered that way. We are setting it up as a plug and play, primarily because we're looking at being able to build in sections and add on as your finances or life changes. But it's also going to be beneficial in areas where you are in flood zones or mining companies. So rather than just build and let it go to waste, you can actually build and relocate. But the one challenge that we've been identifying, and I look forward to anyone to give suggestions or insight, is staying small with a modular in Passive House. It works well, but when you're dealing with sometimes the thicknesses of our walls, when is too small, right? So that's something that we are trying to work out well, and we're going to see what comes out in mid 2021.
I'm just looking for a couple more questions here, but if any of the panelists want to chime into that, go for it. And
I mean, I have a lot to say about the concept of the removal into marketing context of this conversation. So I'd much prefer to answer technical questions from the community if there are any additional questions.
the next person I see that's still there is Laura Tugwell. Laura, did you recall your question from, about an hour ago?
I actually have to look back at the chat. Hold on 1 second, please.
Yeah, have fun with that. That chat's a mile long. So
I've got it here, Laura. You had a couple. You were asking about the window, if the windows are installed by a local GC,
Yes.
and then also is it air tightness tested at the factory, et cetera.
Exactly. Thank you. I'm curious about the window install, especially if it's done by a general contractor that's not quite well versed in the ways of Passive House and the details that are involved in that.
I could speak a little bit to that. As one of the companies that does not install windows in a shop, we are frequently asked that question: Can you install windows for us? And the answer is often yes. The only time it would be a no would be when there is a huge disconnect between our delivery timeline and the delivery timeline of the windows. So, you know, I don't think that we are much better at installing windows than anyone else necessarily, but the illusion is that we are. And I think that what we often try to tell our customers, you know, whether sometimes it's owner direct, sometimes it's through a contractor, but when we're talking with the homeowner, you know, everything we learned about installing windows is readily available on the internet as well. And my feeling is that with higher performing homes and mid-mounted windows, you're often installing them from the inside, and you're doing half the work on the inside of the house, which is a lot easier than it used to be. So I sort of feel like people need to have faith in their general contractors and task your general contractor with learning how to install windows and pay them to learn how to install windows, and everyone would be better off. That said, you know, huge advantages to installing in the shop. So I'm definitely a big fan of that. That's my take on it.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I was wondering that, you know, also ties into the air tightness, you know, the quality as well, you know, just making sure that that's, you know, ensured that that's actually, you know, going to perform at the 0.6, you know, ideally. But, you know, at least.
Hey, Laura, I can probably speak to that one if you like.
Yes, please. Thank you.
It's interestingly, I don't think windows are the biggest challenge when it comes to air tightness. It's more of a method thing. So a general contractor can learn to apply caulking and use the tapes correctly, and then it's really a repeatable thing. So really, for us, the concern is more in what gets done by trades on site and how the site is managed. So people cutting holes into the air barrier in other locations, how they're dealing with fireplaces for one, which seem to get put in quite a bit, or they want it to go with their passive house. So yeah, I guess where we've seen issues with air tightness, it actually hasn't been in windows. It's been in other sort of places that kind of sneak up on a builder that they weren't expecting. So yeah.
I'm gonna jump in contrary to Kyle's comment, and what we've experienced is actually similar but almost opposite, in that we have actually seen windows be a primary source of leakage relative to the surface area of envelope in 10 or 15 of our builds particularly, which is why we stopped using UPVC windows almost 5 years ago. We had problems with the welds leaking, and we had problems with the glazing bead connections leaking. And that being said, our worst blower door test in 10 years has been 0.4 ACH 50. So all of those 100 houses plus that we've built have come in at a blower door test below at 0.42 or below ACH 50. We have had situations where a majority of the leakage was from the windows, and once we transitioned to wood windows, that eliminated the problem. When you move to alu-clad wood windows, you run into the same situation where you're relying on EPDM seals at the IGUs to maintain the air tightness layer. And I think there's a real disconnect in what people's understanding is of levels of quality of different window manufacturers in that regard. Relative to overall air tightness, it comes down to due diligence and people following the instructions that are laid out before them in terms of creating an airtight envelope system. And we're a systems-based company, so it's important to follow the instructions.
So Chris, what you're saying is the issue is more about the window product than the window install on site that the GC would be carrying out. And
Yes,
I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah, that is what I'm saying. And again, it comes down to detailing, right? If you have specific window details that aren't followed by the general contractor, you're going to have potentials for window leakage, and you're going to have a decreased SI install value based on a non-conforming performance metric for that installation. But that's a priori of what I'm talking about in terms of the actual window product being airtight. And the DP testing that's done in the United States is not corollary to airtightness metrics done in the EU. And that's absolutely a fact.
Yeah, no, and again, just to reiterate that when we talk about panels and the Passive House principles, you can't just bring one principle to the party. You got to bring all five. And if you don't bring all five, it ain't a Passive House. You're going to have these issues. So,
or maybe one more thing to add to that is as far as a prefab company, we can't really guarantee airtightness overall. We can really just guarantee the airtightness of our panel system. It is a lot of it is up to the GC to ensure they do a correct window install, good Windows sister product, and manage all the other items. So it's hard to sort of pin the airtightness on the prefabricator. I would say I think you asked that question.
Yeah, I did. In fact, actually, I was curious if they run the test before and after, like before it leaves the factory and once it's installed and it's actually on site, once the rubber hits the road.
So I want to speak to that a little bit, and I agree with what Kyle says. There's a certain degree of risk involved in guaranteeing passive house levels of airtightness, which we have done contractually for the last 8 years. We have never missed the metric. I think the difference is us doing the install versus a local GC doing the install. Send a site supervisor down there to supervise the build, to ensure that those instructions are being followed. If they're not followed, all bets are off. If they are followed, we still guarantee passive house levels of airtightness, and that's written into our contract. And we have not failed one single time in that regard. So it is possible. And I know somebody talked about getting a bonus for meeting passive house levels of airtightness, and I'm gonna put a clause in our contract for that in the future, because we're killing it in that regard. And it's the 21st century quality control metric. And to answer your question, Laura, like, yes, we do not do any blower door tests in the shop. We do one blower door test after the envelope is set and everything is airtight and watertight. We just did an urban infill project in Cambridge, Mass, where we flew in 75 panels in 10 working days on a 4-story multi-family. We did one single blower door test, and it was 0.28 ACH 50. We packed up our stuff and walked out the door.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's absolutely wonderful.
And Chris, is it a hammer drop when you leave, or you can't do a mic drop? So you just hammer drop?
Oh, like full on Obama style, just like yeah. No, that's not my style, dude. We're just like peace, like it's all good.
Good bow and
namaste.
Not so much namaste, but like it's
No worries. You know what? I think it's I mean, we've got 30 extra minutes up tonight. This is a massive bonus. I think I should go ask for forgiveness now. So I think that's a good time to wrap it up, everybody.
Can I ask one really quick question? What about some action on the West Coast? This is all wonderful, but I live in California in the Monterey Peninsula, and I want to see this happening here. And any
Yeah,
action
check out Plant Prefab. They're based out in California. There's Method Homes.
Okay.
There are folks doing things out there. So yeah, take a look, but check out Plant Prefab.
Okay, I will. Thank you very
There-
much.
There's also
Everything.
Devel. Devel is located there too, Doug.
Devel, yeah, I've seen them. They were the one that I've been able to come up with on Google. Thank you so much.
Our
I think somebody in the
our
chat
install
has-
crew
sorry.
our install crew actually lives in Santa Cruz.
Wait.
So,
Oh, right.
so we do ship down. You know, it does cost does become a factor, of
Yeah.
course, shipping that far. But yeah, we are shipping down as far as New Mexico, and we have a couple of maybes in the pipe for California. So we'll see what happens. But having a local install crew down there would help for sure mitigate some of the cost of the install, such as live outs and hotels and whatnot. So keep us in mind if you're looking around.
I sure will, Jan. And Jan, where are you based out of? I'm sorry. What is the name of your company again, please?
Yeah, it's
Benson?
Collective Carpentry.
Oh.
Thanks, Sean. Or Zach.
Collective
I
Carpentry.
thought I'd show the
Um,
map of where we traveled through today. Again, we had this in the pre-show,
Yeah.
so all you might not have seen it. Look at where we did. I mean, we brought all North America together, and we'll do it again next time. Again, just hold on. We'll save a date, and bring on more people. But again, we traveled pretty far today across North America, and we've had people come on from Australia, and I think there's someone from Latin America. So great. We will fix our Zoom so we can have more people. But once we're finished, again, you can watch the video again and see the extra 30 minutes of bonus. Again, before I sign off, Mark's got BS Fridays in one sleep. That's Friday. He's got a lot of people signed up, so join in that. We've got the Passive House Accelerator on Tuesday. Back with the happy hour next Wednesday. Thank you everyone for coming tonight. Let me stop this so I can see everybody, because I want to see everybody. I'm going to say good night, be safe, be kind. Zach, any other final parting words?
Fantastic moderation, Sean. Thank you very much. And thank you to all of our panelists and for everyone for being here. This is an amazing event, and it's all because of you all. So thanks.
Oh, we appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Really cool.
Thank you.
Thank you
Good
so
night,
much.
everybody. Yeah.
Take care.
You guys are amazing. Thanks, everyone.
Good night.